So I think this might end up being the most hottest confession that I think I'll ever make on the channel, because I debated even being honest about it, because I truly feel like after I say this, I'm going to have so many people, it'll be 50% tell me I can't watch this, and then the other 50% are going to tell me that I'm a failure of an anime fan. But I've never watched Dragon Ball more than a few fights. I've seen a handful of episodes of the original anime. I've seen a lot of the main fights cut down into shorter forms. But when I grew up, Dragon Ball wasn't playing on TV for me, where I live. So I never really grew up with it, and, you know, getting into it later on, it just never really appealed to me. And I'm already ready for people to yell at me for that alone. But the thing about this is that, from what I understand, this anime is taking place between the Buu Saga and Super. I don't believe it's supposed to be an alternate timeline or anything. I think it's supposed to sit somewhere in the middle of those. And I don't have experience. I mean, I know a decent amount just because of friends and hearing a lot of people talk about it. But to admit that I'm probably watching a story in the middle of so much, I feel like there's going to be people who are truly like, how dare you? The late Toriyama would be shaking in his grave for this. But here's the thing. I think they did a pretty decent job. I mean, right away, they give you the quick TLDR at the start of the show. And you know what? If people, when they were young, can watch Dragon Ball Z out of order and still pay attention, I think I'll do alright in my adult years. That's just me. This new anime looked interesting to me. I want to check it out. And if I like it enough by the time it's over, then I'll go check out the other stuff. I hope people aren't going to get too mad at that. But I've had similar things happen with other shows that were less popular than Dragon Ball, so I'm waiting for the people to say, how freaking dare you, Brandon? I hate you. Christmas is ruined. But you know what? It looked interesting to me. I want to talk about it at least for now, so we'll see how the internet responds to this. But people are always surprised when I say I didn't really watch Dragon Ball growing up, so this will be an interesting video. Now, I do it for live reactions over on Patreon. If you want to see my full good thought to this new episode, and all these episodes can be over there exclusively. So I think this will be a fun one to watch on a Friday, personally. And honestly, I think my mindset for anime has changed too, because when I really was first getting into anime, I think a lot of the shonen stuff didn't really appeal to me at the time. And over the years, I've actually started to gravitate towards it again more. I just kind of appreciate a lot of different shonens for what they are these days. I would be a liar if I didn't say it's not cool to see characters throw essentially galaxy-level energy balls at each other and somehow question how their Earth is still standing. And honestly, the idea of the Dragon Balls has always been an interesting concept. You know, collect all 7 and you get your wishes granted. We have most of this episode is basically this jester-looking king, who is now the new Demon King, pretty much watching on all these monitors all of Goku and his friends' lives throughout their history. And this might be the funniest thing I've heard all anime season. So they end up traveling from the demon world to Goku's world, right? And they basically they find all 7 Dragon Balls, because apparently this dude made them, turns them back from their stone because they've been used recently, so they're kind of cooling down, so they shouldn't be able to be used. Okay, but I'm not going to give you the password. The moment when our boy literally looks at him and says, "Don't worry, I watched a video on it." That shit sent me, man. I thought that was the funniest thing I've heard all anime season. The casual, like, even if you try to kill me, I won't give you the password. Nah, bro, we already watched the YouTube tutorial of it, we're good. And then just activates it. And the wish that first gets granted is, I want, basically, all of the people who worked and defeated Majin Buu to be turned to kids. And it's a very entertaining interaction, because the Great Dragon's just standing here being like, how old? It's like, what the I don't know, like first graders. What about the ones that are already kids? Babies. And that's the situation. I know there was a lot of like kind of skepticism about like, you know, could Dragon Ball work if like the kids were, you know, all the characters that people have come to know and love were now infants and, you know, just a lot younger. But honestly, when you think about it, even though I haven't watched the entirety of the Dragon Ball series, thinking about some of the fights I have seen, just imagining first graders doing some of that is actually hilarious to me, and I think that's very entertaining. And I mean, this as far as I'm aware, unless they surprise us with, like, there was a secret manga that Toriyama was working with before he died, this should be the very last thing that the author of Dragon Ball ever touched. So it feels interesting to kind of feel like this is probably one of the most creative ideas that he probably left for the fandom of Dragon Ball. And in general, I mean, having essentially world-level heroes being turned to infants because, you know, the new Demon Lord is pretty much scared of what they might end up doing someday if they ever decide to invade the Demon Realm and all this stuff. It's just a very entertaining concept. And the thing about this episode is that it was so wonderfully produced. And obviously the characters are no longer going to look as they did in this episode because, well, they're now going to be first graders, if not babies. It's really nice seeing how crisp they all looked and all of the different animation. This was a 30-minute episode, mind you, too. This was a longer first episode than I was anticipating. So it will be interesting to see if the consistency can keep up, because I do remember when Dragon Ball Super was airing, the TV anime, I remember seeing a lot of different reactions to the visuals. Sometimes people thought it was like the best produced thing they've ever seen Dragon Ball, and then at other points I was seeing screen grabs that I was like, it's probably not that bad, but then they were holding on to some pretty abysmal shots. I think as long as this show's not going to run for like 50 episodes straight, I really doubt this is going to be a crashed production, but only time will tell. But, you know, I'm sure there's going to be some people who are like me, who maybe have touched very little Dragon. There's going to be people who are coming off the new Dragon Ball game and just saying, hey, I randomly picked up this new anime game because it's the most popular thing ever, and now they want to try some new Dragon Ball anime, and this came out. I don't think people are going to be left completely lost. You're not going to have connections to the characters and all the arcs and what they went through. But I thought for a first episode, they gave me a pretty good TLDR. And I kind of just, and because I already had a basic knowledge of some of the things that characters have went through, whether it's through, you know, parody videos, kind of like dumbing down and condensing arcs, or seeing different fights and people talk about it, I don't think it's, you know, a crime to want to maybe watch this as your first rodeo properly into the Dragon Ball universe. You will absolutely get more out of it if you've seen the previous series. I'm not going to deny that. But this isn't the first time I've, like, jumped aboard something that's technically not the first in an anime's, you know, cycle, and people have gotten a little spicy with me, and that was before I had as many subscribers as I have. So all I'm saying is I'm excited to watch Dragon Ball right now. I would appreciate it if you let me watch the Dragon Ball and even make some videos. And hell, I have no nostalgia bias for this show. So if I'm gonna come up here at any point and say I like it, it means because I generally like it. So you can tell that it will be some pretty honest reactions. Hell, I'll give you an honest one right now. Not a big fan of Goku's Japanese voice actor. I think the dub version is way better. And I know a lot of people, when they say that, it's just because they grew up on it. I just don't really like how Goku sounds. Everyone else in Japanese I like, but that's just me. Maybe that's a hotter take for some Dragon Ball fans. I don't know. But let me know what you thought of the return of Dragon Ball and this new take that they're going on. And if you want to see more videos on it, let me know. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we have full live reactions over on Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Jacob, A. Barrett, Tommy Jameson, Devon, Kyle Cow, 10 Crazy, and we also have Steven. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.